friends, welcome back to Nine Little Aussies. My name is Chrissy and I am just getting ready for a baking day. It is Friday evening. It's kind of quiet. The little ones are in bed. The older ones are all out at a basketball game, and I'm sort of prepping for a baking day. As I have mentioned before on here, I have just started a micro bakery from my little farm kitchen, just once a week, selling breads and other baked goods. So tomorrow morning I will be up bright and early baking. Went and restocked on some yeast, but I baked a few loaves of bread just for our family, prepped a few loaves. I think I've just about got things ready so that I can sit down and relax. Most of the work happens on Saturday morning, but there's just a few prep things, and I'm doing cinnamon rolls, which they're sourdough cinnamon rolls, so I prep them the day before, and then later tonight I'll roll them out, shape them, and put them in the fridge, and then bake them in the morning. So I think it would be good if I could do more things prepped ahead, but I really want people to have fresh bread that's been baked that day. So I don't want to bake ahead like the day before. And I'm still figuring out what can and can't be prepped ahead, like the dough, if it can be. I have read a little that you can make doughs and either freeze them or refrigerate them before, but I think it depends what it is. So I probably just need to experiment a little bit with it just for our family to be able to see how it turns out. But I also made some bread for us, and I did mention this on another video, I have been deep diving into freshly milled grains. I have been making breads for our family for years and years and years, but freshly milled grain is a new thing for me. I have this new mill now, and it was my birthday recently, and I requested this book from hubby, so he bought this for me, the Essential Home Ground Flour book by Sue Becker. It's kind of a funny story because I've started making white breads, yeast breads years ago, and then about 3 years ago, approximately something like that, 4 years ago I tried, but I really didn't have good success with sourdough until about 3 years ago. And I felt like that was a really big improvement for our family from a health perspective. But even still, like, I haven't been eating bread for a long time. Occasionally I'll have a little piece. But my digestive system just has never liked it. Anyway, I have just always thought, well, that's okay. You know, that's the way it needs to be, and I'll just make it for the family and it'll be fine. I don't know. I feel like this is like a can of worms. I don't even know how to begin to start explaining to you all the stuff that's in my head right now. I bought this book because the initial seed was sown months ago now. I went to our local farmers market, and we were talking to the vendors and walking around, my husband and I, and talked to these ladies that were there selling bread. And they had come over from Louisiana, and they had Sue Becker's book, and they had freshly milled grains that they'd made their breads that way. And honestly, like, if I'm really gonna be honest about this, I thought freshly milled grains, yeah, okay, I can see that would be better. There would be health benefits to that, but still bread. And they weren't making sourdough, they were just making yeast breads with freshly milled grains. And I guess because of everything I had been taught over the years and heard, I was like, well, that's okay, I guess that's kind of good, but it's not really the real thing, because it's not the best because it's not sourdough. Now, I'm not walking away from making sourdough at all, but it kind of, I guess, sowed a little seed. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of Sue Becker, and they were raving about her. And they were lovely ladies. They were really, really sweet and lovely to talk to, very positive and chirpy, and their stall looked amazing. Their breads looked great. And anyway, so that was that. And then several months later, I heard her mentioned somewhere else. Anyway, I heard her mentioned somewhere else. And then I started seeing a few things pop up about freshly milled grain. And I had heard, I think I saw it on Instagram, about how, if you have to be gluten-free, you can probably handle freshly milled grains. And I thought, well, I just can't see how that could be true. And anyway, there was just, I guess, repeated points of contact where it just tweaked my interest to the point where I was like, I think I need to look at this. I think I need to investigate this a little bit more. So I bought this book. That was the other thing. I did a course on the School of Traditional Skills about freshly milled flour grains, baking bread with freshly milled flour. And again, I'm going into it with this mindset of, well, I'm going to look at this as kind of something is pulling me toward this. I just feel like I need to find out more about this. But in my head, I'm still thinking, yeah, this can't be really great because it's not sourdough. Anyway, the deeper I dived, the more I read and researched and looked into it, the more I started thinking to myself, wait a minute, this is just making way too much sense for me to not stop and think about this. So I looked up Sue Becker on her podcast, started listening to some of her podcasts, and it just, everything she said, I was like, oh my goodness, this is just so simple, it's crazy. And it's making so much sense to me right now. Because my philosophy, I would say for the last handful of years, at least the last 5 years, maybe 10, like I have been, I guess like a lot of us, we go on this health journey. Something triggers it, something starts it, and we need to look into our health for whatever reason. For me, it usually started with my children. Something was not right and I was chasing gut health, or there was skin issues, or there was whatever it was, behavioral problems, or whatever it was. I was looking for solutions. And a lot of times the natural health people, the holistic medicine people will say, I've heard it many, many times, you need to get off all grains and you need to get off dairy. And I had done that. Like for a couple of decades, I have done that. I have always kept coming back to it though, because of this it just doesn't feel right. Like that is what we have lived on as the human race for centuries. And even when I'll hear people say that bread is a modern thing, and well, modern bread is a modern thing, but bread is not modern. And anyway, I guess I came to the place in the last several years where there's just so much conflicting advice about how to eat healthy, how to find good health, how to resolve health issues, how to cook healthy foods. You literally, you pick something and there is a YouTube, a website, a blog, or whatever. There is information out there to back it up and say, no, this is it. This is the new thing. This is what you need to do. Oh, you need to go vegan. No, you need to go carnivore. No, you need to go grain and dairy free. No, you need to go fat free. And I honestly have, in chasing my own health and that of my children, have done a lot of different diets and chased a lot of things and tried a lot of things. And I thought, can it really be this simple? Can it be as simple as this? But several years ago, probably just before COVID, I think is when this happened, I kind of got to a place where I said, you know what, I think I need to stop listening to all these voices. There is too much information, too many voices, and I need to just step back and pray and use common sense and listen to my body and trust my instincts. And so even though I did that several years ago, I feel like I'm just now getting to the point of it all sort of coming together. Now, I haven't got some grand, huge outcome to say, oh, wow, look at this, it's changed everything. But I guess what I'm doing in this video is just taking you along on the journey with me, because that's what I've really tried to do on this YouTube channel since I started it, which is over a year now. I can't believe that. Over October 23, I started this this YouTube channel. And what I have attempted to do is just take you along with me as I'm learning new things. Now, some of these things I have been, I've been cooking meals from scratch for my family for 20 years. But some of these new skills are new to me as I am trying to, sorry, my arm's getting tired, as I am trying to work on new skills and gain new skills to be able to use to help feed my family. The canning, I brought you along this year in all my crazy canning attempts, and as I was learning that new skill. So I'm going to bring you along with this one as well. So this is a loaf of freshly milled spelt sandwich loaf and this is sourdough. Actually, I made this today. It was just a single rise. I didn't do a double ferment. I did a single rise, and I made this yesterday. It's delicious, and it was so simple. So I just milled the grain in this little mock mill and made this loaf. And I've also done another couple of loaves that were yeast breads. So I just cut this one open, and you can see it's just beautiful. It's got this lovely crumb, nice and easy to slice. It's cooled down now. And I love spelt. It's got this beautiful nutty flavor. One thing that just blew me away straight away was the difference between baking with store-bought whole grain flour and baking with freshly milled whole grain flour. It's just night and day. Like, there is no comparison. This, using freshly milled grains, is delicious. It's way easier to work with than I expected. And compared to my previous attempts, like over the years, I've bought wholemeal flour or whole wheat, I think it might be called here. In Australia, it's called wholemeal. Anyway, I've bought that and baked with it many times in this attempt. Well, that'll be better for us. And number one, not got any, it hasn't helped me. I haven't felt good on it at all. And number two, it's like, it doesn't taste good. It's kind of bitter, and it's not easy to work with. This is just completely different. So usually, and this might be a little bit TMI, apologies if it is, but usually I have stayed away from bread because if even sourdough, I've got to be careful not to have too much sourdough because I will end up with digestive problems. Like, it blocks me up. It just does. Like, one piece of bread, the next day I'm in trouble. Well, I have been eating this every day, either this one or there's another recipe that's a yeast bread. And this shocked me too. Like, this is sourdough, but the yeast bread I've been making is fine. Like, my body is saying, yes, please, more of this. And like, regular as clockwork. And I'm just like so shocked at how yummy it is and how easy it is and how instant the change was in how I was feeling. So as far as my bakery goes, I'm going to continue to be cooking and baking with providing with the organic unbleached white flour that I have been using, but I'm going to be adding in some of these whole grain flours, and we'll see if people want it. I'm personally blown away by what I'm seeing, and I'm really hopeful. Like I say, I don't know yet. I haven't been doing this long enough to really have any conclusive evidence, but that it will help several of my children that have various digestive issues as well. And I think the unbleached organic flour, the sourdough, it's all a step in the right direction, and it's way better than any store-bought bread you can get. Like, it doesn't have all these crazy list of ingredients. It's just flour, water, yeast, maybe some milk and eggs if it's an enriched dough, but it's just whole food, right? So it's still a massive step in the right direction towards better health. But when you sift out the germ, which, well, it's just been so interesting to learn this, that they'd started doing this in the 1920s on a big scale. And when they did that, and we had white flour, and the reason they did it was to improve shelf life. So whole grains start to break down and spoil as soon as you mill them, whereas white flour will last on the shelf for a very long time. And so that's why they started doing it. But then all of a sudden there was all these illnesses and sicknesses popping up, and mental illness and digestive problems. I don't know, there was this whole list of illnesses that she spoke about. And the authorities realized after a number of years, they traced it back to the fact that they had taken the husk and the outer layer and everything, the germ, out of the flour. And so they went back to the millers and said, hey, we need to put this back in because everyone's getting sick. People are dying because of this. And the millers were like, well, no, we're not going to do that, because they had found a market for that byproduct, and they were selling all of that husk and germ to farmers for pig food. And they were making a lot of money having this like other stream of income. And so the government, what they did is they said, okay, well, we have to put these things back in the flour. When they sifted it out, over 60 nutrients were lost. They put 4 back. 4. And the ones they put back are synthetic, man-made, not what was originally there at all. So much was lost. So much was lost for our health. And when you look down through history and how all these modern diseases that have just consumed us as a nation, like my homeland as well as the USA, you got to start asking some questions like, what's going on here? And how did this happen? And how can we get back to real bread? I think my decision several years ago to just peel back and just go, you know what, there's too much information, too many conflicting pieces of advice, it's too confusing, my head can't handle this, and it's not helping me because it's just paralyzing me, because one person says do this, one person says do that, and none of it really makes sense. So I just went, you know what, I am going to listen to my body. I am going to go back to just like, I'm going to eat real whole foods. But I did stay away from grains largely, very largely, other than making bread for my children and my husband, making bread for my family. But I personally stayed away from it because of my own gut issues. And honestly, having heard for so many years, at least a couple of decades, grains are bad, grains are bad, grains are bad. Get rid of the grains. And so I think, though, that decision a couple of years ago to just stop, and I'm not that I've totally stopped listening to any kind of health podcast. That's not true, because I'm, in that sphere, in that the world of growing my own food, which is a world where people actually think about what they're putting in their mouth. So I still have been consuming that information, but just in a way less. I'm not taking it all on board. I'm really critically thinking about it and going, does this make sense to me? Lord, is this piece of information for me, or do I just let it pass? And I think doing that is what has sort of allowed me to be open to this, because like I said, when I first saw those ladies at the farmers market and listened to what they were saying, I was still very skeptical. Like, I don't know that you know, it's still grains and grains are bad. Like that was still in my head. So, and I am very early on in this, like I guess maybe about a month now, 6 weeks that I have been investigating this actively. So I will let you know, like I will bring you along on the ride with me. But I just wanted to say, hey, I've been looking at this and I'm starting to really wonder. And honestly, the relief for me with the thought that I can just make bread, cook vegetables, cook meat, cook basic from scratch food, feed my family without having to think, oh no, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, is such a freeing thought. And bread is hard to leave out. Trust me, having done it for a couple of decades, it's hard, especially when you're on a really tight budget. It's not easy. So, and grains are really affordable. So anyway, I'm just going to bring you along. I'm going to share with you as I am learning, just like I did with my canning and different things I'm learning in gardening. I don't know, this whole homesteading journey. I'll keep you posted. Let me know if you have been making bread with freshly milled grains, your experiences, or if you've thought about it, or if you think I'm wacko and I shouldn't be doing, I shouldn't be eating grains. But I can't tell you how wonderful it was to make a loaf of bread, mill the grain, make the bread, have it turn out really nice. And then you know what I did? I got the Vegemite out of the cupboard and I slathered that bread in butter and put a yummy thin smear of Vegemite on there. Oh my word. To be able to eat that guilt-free, yeah, no, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. So I will let you know how it all goes, but I'm really liking this recipe. This recipe I got from the Rose Homestead. That was the other trigger, actually. That's right. I listened to Jill Winger interview Rose from, I can't remember her last name, from the Rose Homestead, and she has a lot of content on baking sourdough bread with freshly milled grains. And she was talking to Jill Winger about freshly milled grains. And Jill has actually since done another interview with another guy that I can't remember. So I've just, specifically that interview really perked my ears up and thought, okay, I think I need to look into this. And I do, for me personally, I do like to, and this is another thing that helped me a couple of years ago, was just to go, I'm just going to talk to the Lord about this, because this, he can tell me if I need to know it. And I know not everyone watching may be coming from a place of faith like that, but that I do feel like he has led me this way, because this is not a direction I would have chosen. And I am so, I'm just excited. I'm excited at the thought that freshly milled grains could have such big health benefits for my family and for myself. I've noticed an improvement in my energy and definitely in my tummy. So, good news. So, fun fact. Did you know that until the 1920s, when they started sifting out the wheat and the germ, the only people that ate white flour were kings and emperors and really rich people, because they had slaves who could, I guess, had the time and they had the resources to sift all the flour, and also to throw, a good third of it or whatever away that was in the germ and the husk. And your average commoner couldn't do that. They couldn't throw half of the wheat away. Like, that would be wasteful, and they couldn't afford to do that. But the wealthy people could. And interestingly, those wealthy people were the ones who suffered from lots of mysterious diseases that the poor common people didn't suffer from. It's very interesting when you look at the history of flour and grains and milling and how that all panned out. And now you look at our society and how sick we are and how lacking we are in so many nutrients. And I just can't help but wonder if we're starving ourselves to death. Starving ourselves not of physical matter that we're putting in our mouths, but of real food and of nutrient dense food. And who knew that whole grain wheat might just be one of the most nutrient dense foods on the earth. I can't believe I'm saying that, because I've heard for so long that grains are bad. But, you know, sometimes I think, you know, we get sold a bill of goods and we just don't even know it. Just got to keep going back to, how did our great-great-grandparents eat? What did they do? Because in the last 100 years or so, we've seen so much lost of the wisdom and the health that we used to have. Anyway, I will keep you posted. Let me know your thoughts. Love to hear from you. And sunshine and raindrops, and we will see you next time.